From the time one person costed LEGO over $1 million to safety hazards that should have never been released to the public. These are 81 of the worst mistakes LEGO's ever made. Picture this, you're LEGO, one of the biggest toy companies in the world, and you think you've got everything under control. But then, boom. One tiny human error sets you back $1.6 million. Yeah, you heard that right. In 2015, someone at LEGO's Billin factory mislabeled a color tube. Instead of the sleek dark gray pieces, light gray pieces were packed in its place. What followed was a literal nightmare. LEGO had to recall a total of 129,000 sets before they even hit the shelves. And get this, they had to bring in employees from the Czech Republic and Hungary who were literally on vacation just to fix the mess. Talk about ruining someone's holiday. In the end, LEGO spent $1.6 million cleaning up this mess. They even invested in better factory lighting and pre-printed labels so this never happens again. Luckily for them, the company pulled in a whopping $3.5 billion in revenue that year. So $1 million hiccup? Barely a scratch. After this, I guess the employee who made the mistake ended up in the safe zone. This mistake was pretty bad, but what happens when something like this happens with a Technic set instead of a piece? Well, if there's one thing you expect from LEGO Technic, it's mind-blowing engineering. However, even LEGO can mess up the mechanics from time to time. Case in point, the Porsche 911 GT3 RS set. This beauty was supposed to showcase LEGO Technic's ability to replicate real-life engineering in LEGO form. But there was just one problem. They totally messed up the gearbox. When people got their hands on this set, they quickly noticed that the gear sequence was, let's say, less than accurate. Instead of the smooth transition you'd expect from a high-performance car, the gearbox was out of order, causing a complete misfire in how the gears shifted. Imagine buying a $300 LEGO set and spending hours building it, only to realize the gears don't even work like a real Porsche. Yikes. LEGO eventually acknowledged the mistake, but didn't offer official fixes. Regardless, the set is still super popular, even with this massive design flaw. But this next mistake is one that couldn't be ignored. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this video, be sure to subscribe. I post LEGO videos just like this one every week. When you think about LEGO, fire hazard probably isn't the first thing that comes to mind. But that's exactly what happened with the LEGO Power Functions IR Speed Remote Control. This little gadget was designed to give builders full control over their LEGO Technic sets, letting you ramp up the speed and feel like a true LEGO mechanic. Unfortunately, things got a little too heated, literally. Shortly after its release, reports started coming in that the remote was overheating. Like, seriously overheating. Users were experiencing everything, from melting plastic to the whole thing getting so hot that you couldn't even hold it. It was a nightmare, so LEGO had no choice but to recall the product. What was meant to be a fun addition to the Power Functions line quickly became a safety concern, and LEGO had to act very fast. The company pulled the remotes from the shelves, reimbursed customers, and went back to the drawing board to avoid any future barbecues. But this wasn't the only time LEGO had to pull a product from the shelves, and this next one was actually a LEGO truck. You'd think a truck is only as good as its wheels, right? Well, not if you're talking about the LEGO Explorer Super Truck, which had a major problem with its wheels. Like, they just kept falling off. Imagine giving a kid this awesome looking truck only to have the wheels separate from the axles and roll away on their own. Not exactly the kind of playtime experience LEGO was going for. The issue was so bad that LEGO issued a full recall on the Super Truck set in 2002 and 2003. The problem? Those detached wheels posed a choking hazard for small kids, and the axles that the wheels sat on were super pointy when the wheels weren't covering them. So not only could kids choke on the wheels, but they could even accidentally stab themselves with the axles. This recall, though, was absolutely massive. The set was sold all over North America through big-name retailers like Toys R Us and Walmart. LEGO quickly pulled the product from the shelves and issued refunds to anyone affected. Safety is obviously a big deal for LEGO, but this was a pretty embarrassing bump in the road for the Explorer line. On a happier note, though, let's talk about one of LEGO's more common but super annoying mistakes. A certain type of misprint called a shift print. You've probably seen one of these before, where the print on a minifigure isn't exactly where it's supposed to be, leaving you with a pretty wonky looking minifig. The most infamous examples? Minifigure heads where the eyes, mouth, or helmet details are totally out of place. It's like LEGO's printers decided to take the day off. This usually happens during the manufacturing process, when the minifigure's head isn't perfectly aligned on the torso when it's time to print. What should be a flawless face or helmet design ends up looking like something out of a LEGO horror movie. Like, look at this Clone Trooper minifig. The blue helmet is way off to the right, but then look at this TIE Fighter pilot. The print for this guy isn't even remotely close. Now, if you ever opened up a Lego set and got something like this, I bet you'd be a little mad at first, but let me tell you why you shouldn't be. These misprints have actually turned into collector's items. One of these botched clone troopers sold for around $125, and 2 different Imperial TIE Fighter pilots went for a jaw-dropping $220 and $250. So while these errors might seem like a stroke of bad luck, you might actually be able to make some good money off of it, but that definitely isn't the case for this next mistake. When Lego fans heard about the upcoming WALL-E set from Lego Ideas, they went crazy. Who wouldn't want to build their very own adorable trash compacting robot? But there was one small problem that nearly derailed the entire release. WALL-E's head just wouldn't stop wobbling. Right before the set hit the shelves, Lego had to slam the brakes because of a design flaw in WALL-E's neck. Instead of sitting firmly in place, his head bobbled around like he was dancing to some imaginary music. For a set designed as a display piece, that wasn't going to work. Lego's designers were forced to go back to the drawing board and fix the wobbly head issue, delaying the release for a few crucial weeks. Fans were left waiting, and the anticipation only grew stronger. To Lego's credit, they didn't rush the fix. When WALL-E finally hit the market, his head was nice and secure, and fans were able to enjoy the build without worrying about their little robot having a mind of his own. While the delay wasn't catastrophic, it certainly put a damper on the initial excitement. But just when you thought you were done hearing about wobbly Lego sets, here's another one. But this time is a superhero. When Lego dropped the Ant-Man Final Battle set in 2015, fans were eager to build their own showdown with Scott Lang and a giant ant. But there was a pretty big problem. The giant ant wasn't exactly battle ready. The set came with major stability and mobility issues, with the ant barely being able to stand up without tipping over. And since the set was fully designed around this ant, it was definitely a big problem. In the UK, the set's release was delayed for about 2 weeks because of this production issue. The ant's legs were so loose that even the slightest amount of pressure would squash the poor thing. Lego had to scramble to fix this disaster, so they added a couple of new pieces. A Technic axle with 2 grooves and a 1x1 nose cone. These were added to each leg for extra stability. And guess what? The fix worked. The updated sets could finally stand tall without collapsing. But here's the kicker. Lego didn't change the box or make it known that the set had been modified at all. The only way you could tell was by the updated instructions tucked inside. Talk about low-key damage control. Meanwhile, over in the US, fans had already been building their squishy ants since the set launched on June 1st, with no idea that this fix was on the way. I have to say, Lego, if you're gonna fix mistakes, you should at least let the people know. Now, let's talk about one of the weirdest and most extreme Lego misprints you can come across. The 180-degree print. This is when Lego decides to flip the script, like literally, and print on the wrong side of a minifigure. An example we have here is this Chewbacca minifigure from the Yavin 4 Rebel base set, where instead of his face being printed on the front, it's on his back. This little mishap turns one of the galaxy's most iconic characters into something straight out of a Lego fever dream. And collectors, well, they're absolutely eating it up. One of these misprinted Chewies sold for around $200, proving that even the weirdest Lego errors can turn into gold. But it doesn't stop there. An AT-AT Driver minifigure also had its print reversed and sold for around $150. While these reverse print misfits are technically mistakes, they've become rare, sought-after collectibles that bring in some serious cash. This is one of the only Lego mistakes that can lead to something good though, so let's get back to the mistakes that just can't be overlooked. This is the Lego White House set, a building with a high reputation. But turns out, even Lego's most refined builds aren't immune to major mistakes. In this case, it wasn't the bricks that caused problems, but it was the instruction manual itself. Yup, Lego's own manual had a pretty significant error, confusing builders mid-build and forcing them to improvise. The mistake completely threw off the building process, which obviously frustrated a lot of people who just wanted to build the set. The instructions were so messed up that it even told people to endlessly stack 1x1 plates. Like, how does something like this even happen? Lego eventually corrected the instructions, but not before a lot of builders had to fend for themselves and get creative to finish building the set. It's not exactly what you would expect from a premium Lego product, and for a set centered around the White House, you'd hope for more careful planning. In the end, Lego did manage to fix the instructions and send out corrections, but the damage was done. If you were one of the early buyers, you had to navigate this architectural masterpiece with a serious design flaw in its blueprint. And I hate to say it, but this isn't the only icon Lego messed up. When Lego released the Steamboat Willie set, fans were hyped to get their hands on a tribute to one of the most iconic Disney characters of all time. But in their rush to launch the set, Lego made a pretty glaring mistake, one that fans immediately noticed. The side of the boat, which was meant to show the set's sequential number as number 25 was instead printed as number 24. It may seem like a minor typo, but for the collectors, this kind of thing is a really big deal. The packaging error the set's intended numbering, which caused some confusion and left fans scratching their heads. LEGO acknowledged the issue and promised to correct it in future versions of the set, but the set was already in stores. Early buyers were left with this glaring reminder that sometimes even LEGO gets a little too excited and skips a few crucial steps. Though the printing error didn't affect the actual build, it became a talking point among fans. And let's be real, if you're shelling out money for collector's items, you'd expect the packaging to be just as flawless as the build itself. LEGO fixed the mistake eventually, and maybe also fired the guy who did that, but the early copies with number 24 are still out there somewhere. When it comes to misprints though, nothing stands out quite like the combined prints on minifigures. These are way cooler than just regular misprints. In fact, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. It started when an employee somehow messed up and made the first combined print. However, some collectors out there thought, this is cool. It would sell for a lot of money. And just like that, combined prints became one of the most expensive misprints in LEGO history. This LEGO Clone Arc Trooper is an example of just how bizarre this combination can get. This trooper ended up getting the black printing of a dress meant for a female LEGO City minifigure. Instead of a sleek soldier in armor, you've got a clone trooper who looks like he's ready for a night out on the town. What makes these combined prints so fascinating and expensive is their sheer rarity. Collectors flock to these misprints, eager to snag something so uncommon and cool looking. So if you ever find a minifigure with one of these combined prints, odds are you can throw it up on eBay and make a couple $100. But when it comes to minifigures, there is one more mistake that's even less common than combined prints. LEGO Star Wars sets are home to some of the most sought after minifigures in the galaxy, and one of the rarest is a unique misprint of Princess Leia that came with the 2010 Tantive IV set. In its first production run, something bizarre happened. Leia's hair mold came out completely smooth. That's right, no ripples or detailing in her hair, just a perfectly smooth, sleek style that was never intended for the final product. Now again, this was a mistake and it was not supposed to come out that way, but LEGO fans love something out of the ordinary. This smooth-haired Leia became an instant hit among collectors. While most fans were scrambling to build their Tantive IV set, a select few unknowingly acquired one of the rarest misprints in LEGO Star Wars history, and the appeal only grew over time, with collectors hunting down these copies of Leia, turning her into a prized piece of LEGO memorabilia. Interestingly, this mistake wasn't exclusive to the Tantive IV set. It's popped up in a few other Leia minifigures as well. However, it's the first production run of the Tantive IV set that remains the most well-known and sought after. Today, if you're lucky enough to own a smooth-haired Leia, you're holding onto a minifigure that's as rare as they come in the Star Wars LEGO universe. First, we have Scala, which was pretty much a LEGO Barbie knockoff. This set was actually a reboot of an earlier version that was released in 1979. However, the first version only survived 1 year before getting discontinued, so I guess that the guys over at LEGO decided they would give it a second shot. The set featured the pretty standard offerings for dolls, being different clothes the dolls could be dressed in, and a set where you could play with the dolls. Now, just by looking at it, it's pretty clear why the reboot failed as well. The only thing about this that resembles actual Legos were some random flowers in the set. Other than those few pieces, nothing about this product line actually resembled LEGO, meaning that there was very little support for the product, especially since it was pretty clearly knocking off Barbie dolls, a product space that was already dominated by Mattel when the product was rebooted. Next up, we have Galador, another failed LEGO product that didn't even really resemble LEGO at all. Looking at the Galador sets, you can see how weird the characters look. The only thing they had going for them is that they had interchangeable arms, which is a function I don't really see the value in, but that's besides the point. Other than that, the Galador product line had zero resemblance to any LEGO offerings at the time and ended up failing because of that. That's not to mention that the sets were based off of a TV show that on its own already wasn't very popular either. Released in 2002, Galador, Defenders of the Outer Dimension, was the sci-fi show that these figures were based on. But if there was any LEGO product that I would say was doomed to fail, it would have to be these ones. Looking back on it, the show only aired for 3 months in total, and only ever showed 24 episodes. Out of those episodes, the show is rated a mere 4 out of 10 by IGN. So with the poor performance of the program these minifigures were based on, and the extremely awkward likeness of the production figures, I'm not really surprised by the fact that this is one of LEGO's biggest failures. Some LEGOs may perform badly in stores, but I don't think many that hit the shelves actually lose the company money. This is the LEGO Technic Fiber Optic Multi-Set. Wow, that's a big name. Anyways, the main selling point of this set is the fact that you can build many different models from the one set of pieces, being a boat, helicopter, car, and so many more. The gimmick with this set is the fiber optic light cables that go across the set. These would actually light up when powered by a battery. However, the issue with it is that these fiber optic lights ended up costing LEGO more to manufacture than they could actually sell the entire set for. Obviously, this ended up being a huge issue for LEGO because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize losing money is not good for a business. This set retailed for about $70 back in 1996. So those must have been some really expensive lights for LEGO to actually lose money on each set they sent out to stores. As we can see from the previous items, LEGO has had their fair share of negative reviews for when they stray too far from their normal product lines. However, the LEGO Bionicles were actually far from this. Bionicles was a completely unique story that LEGO produced from 2001 to 2010 on its first run, featuring different mechanical heroes, elemental powers, artifacts, and more. Needless to say, the show was super popular on its first go-around, and so were the LEGO sets that came with it. The original Bionicle sets had a pretty simplistic design, but definitely explained what the show had to offer, featuring all of the different characters and their powers. This all came crashing down in 2015 when the show was rebooted by the people over at LEGO, but this time it didn't last nearly as long. The Bionicles reboot only lasted a mere 2 years compared to 9 years the first time around, and with the subpar performance on the show came poor performance on the LEGO sets that came with it. The rebooted characters definitely look cool, however with much less interest in the show, the Bionicles sets didn't do well in stores, leading to a small number of Bionicles reboot sets ever being released, and eventually this led to them being discontinued. But there is a rumor that Bionicles could come back in the future, and with this, they would definitely have some LEGO sets to accompany it, but I don't really know why they would want to do that a second time after it failed the first. LEGO has faced challenges when straying too far from their traditional product lines, and the Nexo Knights TV show is a prime example of this. Launched in 2016, Nexo Knights aimed to blend medieval knights with futuristic technology, introducing what seemed like a unique and new storyline. However, the show struggled to gain widespread popularity, and despite efforts to build a solid storyline and narrative, Nexo Knights did not resonate as strongly with audiences as LEGO would have hoped. In the end, there were only 40 total episodes, and the overall rating of the show on IMDb is a mere 5 out of 10. The sets associated with Nexo Knights face similar challenges. While the sets actually weren't that bad, incorporating a fusion of traditional and futuristic elements didn't really catch on with the LEGO fanbase. The disconnect between the show's performance and the set's appeal contributed to challenges in stores, and ultimately Nexo Knights struggled to achieve the same level of success as other champion sets to their TV shows, leading to a decline in interest and eventual discontinuation. Next up, we get to see another one of LEGO's poor attempts at knocking off another popular toy company, K'NEX. In total, LEGO produced 19 Snap sets from 1998 to 1999, but their unoriginality shined through, leading to the set's failure. With its alternative method of connection, LEGO tried to take a shot at competing with K'NEX, an already popular construction toy brand when the sets were released. The set was one of several LEGO product lines with an alternative building method, and these types of sets often led to them being rejected by fans of LEGO due to the fact that they don't interact with the original formats of LEGO sets. And because of fans' loyalty to the original method of brick building, overall we can see who won this battle. As a result, LEGO Snaps only had a short 2-year lifespan, and K'NEX has lived on. Here we have another one of LEGO's random spin-off storylines, but this one was particularly unsuccessful. The LEGO Aqua Raiders was a series of sets that was released back in 2007. There were 7 total sets that LEGO produced in this series before it got shut down. The largest set out of this series was Aqua Base Invasion, the Aqua Raiders underwater base. The base and the underwater vehicles mainly featured a yellow and black color scheme, while the divers were designed with blue and black wetsuits and blue goggles over black helmets. The sets featured a Kraken, harpoon gun, treasure chests, and more, meaning nobody really knew what the real objective behind the set was. The theme of the sets were kind of random, and fans felt that it came out of nowhere without any real plot or connection to draw in customers to buy these sets. This was furthered by the fact that the sets didn't have any story or TV show that backed them up, leading to a huge lack of enthusiasm in the sets overall, and with this, the sales of the Aqua Raiders sets were poor as well. Next up, we have the LEGO Angry Birds movie set. This set featured a bunch of moving platforms and mechanisms, along with the bad piggies from the movies that you had to knock over, and a catapult of course. I've gotta hand it to them. The set is actually engineered pretty well well and has some cool features, but the main reason people didn't like this set was because of the minifigures. The minifigures ended up looking like LEGO rushed the production process and just wanted to squeeze some extra cash out of the Angry Birds. This ended up blowing up in LEGO's face, as the set did not sell very well in stores, and to be honest, I can see why. Most of Minecraft's LEGO sets are instant hits and do extremely well for both Mojang and LEGO alike. With that in mind, it's hard to believe that the Minecraft Micro World sets did so poorly. There were a few different versions of this set released, depicting various biomes and landmarks like the End, Nether, villages, and mountains. However, this set was criticized heavily for the fact that it was simply super basic. The characters like Steve and the mobs were absolutely tiny, making this set a nightmare to interact with as people would often lose pieces. Due to the tiny pieces and small piece count overall, fans didn't really appreciate the fact that the set was very minimalistic and did not do the beauty of Minecraft justice. Being the first LEGO Minecraft sets ever released, LEGO definitely took the feedback, as the Minecraft sets we see nowadays are extremely detailed and are a very solid middle ground between LEGO and Minecraft styles, representing Minecraft in a fun and interactive way with the various characters and biomes that we know and love. Next up, we have the Jack Stone series, and just by looking at it, I think I'm starting to see a common theme with some of these sets. As evident from past instances, LEGO has faced criticism when deviating significantly from its usual product lines. However, the LEGO Jack Stone sets experienced a unique set of challenges. Introduced in 2001, Jack Stone targeted a younger age group with larger, simplified bricks and figures, trying to provide a more accessible building experience for younger kids. The sets featured larger, more simplistic pieces, which limited the creative potential for builders, and although aimed to cater to younger audiences, LEGO may have underestimated the building capabilities of their younger audience, leading to a really unenjoyable experience for fans when building with these sets. This, combined with the deviation from LEGO's classic style, ended up with the Jack Stone series being discontinued after just 25 sets in total. Just like Bionicles, Ben 10 was an extremely popular TV show back in the early 2000s, and their LEGO sets were bound to be pretty popular as well. However, just like some of the previous mentions, LEGO underdelivered when it came to really representing the glory of an awesome show like Ben 10. The theme relied heavily on specialized pieces, designated to replicate the unique monsters that Ben can transform into in the show. This limited the versatility of the sets, a more traditional buildable LEGO set with bricks rather than simply assembling a character. In the grand scope of LEGO's offerings, the Ben 10 sets are remembered for its attempt to bring a popular animated series to the world of LEGO. However, the challenges it faced, including its reliance on specialized pieces, impacted its reception among LEGO enthusiasts, contributing to the product line's eventual discontinuation. While many of LEGO's current-day projects thrive, the LEGO Master Builder Academy told a much different story. The Master Builder Academy launched as a subscription-based program with the aim of teaching enthusiasts much more advanced building techniques by sending a new set monthly that eventually increased in difficulty. Customers would receive kits through a subscription, each focusing on specific building techniques and concepts. However, the program struggled to keep people interested, mostly due to its niche market, targeting advanced builders only. LEGO's reliance on a subscription model definitely wasn't a good choice, as people ended up paying $50 to $100 for sets that they weren't even happy with. Despite its goal of teaching advanced building skills, the Master Builder Academy faced a ton of challenges, and when combining this with poor reception from fans, the program was eventually discontinued. Unfortunately, there has never really been another LEGO program like the Master Builder Academy, which sucks because it would have been a really cool idea had it been executed just a little bit better. Next up, we have the LEGO Fusion app, something that really could have turned out to be an interesting product line, but ended up failing. The LEGO Fusion app was a companion mobile app to a series of sets that LEGO manufactured for it. The way it worked was that you could assemble the LEGO set and then launch the app and play mini games within the set that you just constructed. In an early attempt to blend physical brick building with augmented reality gameplay, the LEGO Fusion app was actually received pretty well by fans at first. However, it later faced criticism for its limited appeal and poor execution upon release. Despite the ambitious concept, LEGO Fusion really struggled to be widely applicable to the masses of LEGO fans, especially considering that you could only play it if you had the accompanying set, and with each set costing upwards of $35, it just really wasn't a good combination. Along with that, the constraints of early technology and challenges in integrating the augmented reality aspect of the game didn't work that well. I know, right? Shocking. The limited success and reception led to the eventual discontinuation of LEGO Fusion, emphasizing the importance of finding the right balance between innovation and audience appeal in LEGO's future products. Now, let's shift our focus to the LEGO Legends of Chima Speedors. Legends of Chima was initially introduced as a TV show, presenting a magical world where animal tribes fought for the life-giving substance known as chi, and the Legends of Chima Speedors line storyline within the show featured small vehicles called in competitive races on a track, just like in Mario Kart. Funnily enough, this is where some of the problems arise. Having been released in 2013, LEGO attempted to knock off Mario Kart and Nintendo, probably the worst time they could have ever chosen to do this, as back then, all anyone could think about was the Wii and Mario Kart. While some die-hard LEGO fans liked the concept, the game faced criticism for awful playability and perceived lack of any story tied to the actual Legends of Chima show. It just kind of seemed like a cash grab. The simplicity of the game, paired with concerns about their financial performance, contributed to their challenges of getting the game to catch on. The struggles of both the Legends of Chima show and its speedors inevitably led it to being taken out of development and shut down. Next up, we have the LEGO Ultra Agents sets. First introduced in 2014, Ultra Agents embarked on a sci-fi, action-packed adventure where a team of secret agents battled against an evil organization led by a group called Antimatter. The Ultra Agents sets featured futuristic vehicles, high-tech gadgets, and an overall interesting style, aiming to create yet another unique LEGO storyline. However, the theme faced challenges, particularly in its reliance on specialized pieces. I know, it's a common theme. Some enthusiasts criticized the sets for their limited versatility, taking away from cross-compatibility and creative expression. Additionally, the sets had a relatively short lifespan, running for about 2 years, and its discontinuation was influenced by a combination of things, including competition with other themes and the limitation of the specialized pieces. The struggles of the LEGO Ultra Agents theme highlight the struggles LEGO encounters when they try to go too far away from what fans are used to. Now, let's look at the LEGO Dimensions game, introduced in 2015 as another video game incorporating physical LEGO figures and LEGO sets. It was pretty much a reboot to a previously mentioned LEGO Fusion app, but it was more similar to what Skylanders was at the time. The game featured a unique concept where players could build and interact with physical LEGO character pucks that would then appear in the game. However, LEGO Dimensions faced challenges due to the high cost of expansion packs and growing competition in augmented reality games. Despite the initial excitement, the theme struggled to maintain momentum, and the game was shut down in 2017. The limitations in the game's long-term appeal and the financial problems introduced by the all but required expansion packs contributed to the problems faced by LEGO Dimensions.
Starting off with this really sus piece, the LEGO Technic pin and axle connector. This piece is supposed to connect pins and axles on LEGO Technic vehicles, but for some unknown reason, it got super popular in the LEGO community. Let's just be honest though, LEGO knew exactly what they were doing with this piece. Like, come on, we all know what this looks like. On to the next is a custom minifigure called the Double Bedtime Enthusiast, who's obviously Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger is cursed all on his own, but giving him 2 heads is one of the most cursed things I've ever seen. This is a minifigure you definitely don't want in your collection, unless you never go to sleep or something. This next minifigure though is cursed in a totally different way. We all know that LEGO fans can get pretty crazy when they make custom LEGO items, but the fact that people are seriously making the LEGO Hawk Tuah girl is insane. There's no way anyone would ever buy this, right? It's way too cursed. But this next item might make less sense than the Hawk Tuah minifigure. This is a LEGO manual for the deceased, and like, how are you even supposed to use this? If it's a manual for dead people, then that means you can't use it unless you're dead. So it seems to me that this LEGO item is a curse all on its own. Like, you're literally putting a curse on yourself. Stay away from this one, guys. But as they say, there's always a bigger fish. This is a LEGO Ouija board, and even if you don't think Ouija boards are real, you have to admit that this is pretty cursed. I mean, the real one is bad enough, so why would anyone ever want to own a LEGO version too? I don't know. All this talk of the afterlife is messing with my head. Let's get back to some minifigures. Now, what do you do when a Barbie starts carrying around the manual for the deceased? Well, you get a Barbie. Even though this thing looks cursed, I have to say, it takes a really creative mind to design and make something like this. Even though they only changed one letter, they made it sound so funny. Back to the weird, cursed, and unexplainable minifigures. Here we have a guy. Well, a tube guy called Butcher. His body is in the shape of a tube, like those waving balloons you see outside car dealerships. That's cursed itself, but what makes it even worse is its design. His arms are labeled as his feet, but he's also made of ham, bacon, and a bunch of other weird stuff. Who even thought to do this? Next up, we've got a thing. Yes, a thing, because I really don't know what else to call it. On the left, we've got a minifig that's holding a Molotov with a whiskey label, and on the right, we've got a creature whose torso is a minifigure head with snail eyes and spider legs. I can't even tell what's going on here. This is way too much for my head. Speaking of heads though, this one's for all the old heads. Take a look at this Eazy-E minifigure. Now, before you get all upset, this minifigure isn't really that cursed, but come on. Did he have to be holding a bottle of 800? That's so unnecessary. If you guys are enjoying this video, be sure to subscribe. I post LEGO videos every single week.
Do you have your own cursed minifigure that you want to make more cursed? Well, here's your chance. For only a couple of bucks, you can give your already cursed minifig a stacked zombie head. I can't even imagine how cursed this would look on a minifigure. I mean, this headpiece is so tall. But if you think that's not cursed, then take a look at this. A stacked Frankenstein zombie head. Look at how big his forehead is. The stacked zombie head might look okay from the front, but this Frankenstein head looks terrible from every angle. I mean, it's just way too cursed. But for those of you who have known LEGO as a perfect way for someone to have innocent fun, well, I'm about to change that, because here's another bad LEGO accessory. A bag of some green leaves and a sort of vase. For those of you who don't know what this is, good, it should stay that way. And for those of you who do know, why and how do you know what this is? This is definitely cursed. But if these leaves are too much for you, no worries. Have some LEGO cigarettes. Just kidding, stay away from those. They're really bad for your health. But seriously, who would make something cursed like this and top it off by packing it into a cigarette-inspired packaging? Whatever, on to the next. Remember that butcher tube guy? Well, you'll see him more than once in this video. Here we have another tube guy who's only wearing underwear. The more you stare at him, the more cursed he gets. I mean, who makes these? Actually, no. Who buys or even considers buying these? Honestly though, we need a break from all these weird minifigures and accessories. So let me show you something that's really cursed. A WWE SmackDown set. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the idea, and I think it's really good for WWE fans, but the way it's made is just super weird. Take a look at these minifigures. They look nothing like actual LEGO minifigures, but the set was made by LEGO. Straight cursed. But this next thing might be worse. Here's a LEGO head with pink hair on the entire thing. It's basically just a bigger minifigure head that's furry. So if you take a pink body and stack this head on it, you'll basically get the most cursed minifigure ever. Like, just imagine a giant pink furry minifigure sitting in front of you. Yeah, that definitely proves it. This thing is 100% cursed. But could you ever imagine Nickelodeon making a cursed LEGO item? Nickelodeon is a big company with a lot of money, and I could never imagine them making a cursed LEGO set, but they did. This is the SpongeBob building house, and it may not look bad at first, but the longer you look at it, the worse it gets. One thing that makes this set cursed is SpongeBob himself. Just look at him with those wide shoulders. But it gets worse. You can actually make him go blind. His eyes can literally pop out, and you'll be left with an eyeless SpongeBob that looks like he came straight from a horror movie. If that isn't cursed, then I don't know what is. Let's get back to some cursed minifigs though. Now, to be honest, I can't decide if this next one is cursed or not, but it's at least weird. This minifig is called Sunscreen Enthusiast, and it's basically a guy in his swim trunks who forgot to use sunscreen and got some super gnarly tan lines. See what I mean now? Like, this minifigure isn't that bad, but it's definitely towing the line between cursed and weird. Before we move on to the next item though, I just have to apologize. This might ruin your favorite video game. This is a knockoff LEGO Minecraft set with probably the worst name ever, My World. The more you look at it, the worse it gets. Like, look at this charged creeper minifigure. This isn't what they look like in the game at all. Then look at Alex. He's got full diamond armor with a wooden sword. Like, what? Then, not to mention the TNT with the reversed colors and a purple spider. This set is cursed in every way possible. Let's just get on to the next item. On to the next really cursed minifigure, we have the Botany Enthusiast. If you can't figure out why it has this name, then it's probably for the best. He looks like he's enjoying his life while holding his vase though. For the people who know what this means, I think you can agree with me here. There's no reason for this minifigure to exist. Next up, we've got a fortune teller booth, and even though it's not as bad as the Franken zombie head, it's still cursed, because think about it. There's a human sitting inside a machine, like he literally can't get out. And you expect me to let this guy tell me my fortune? Yeah, no way. Too cursed for me. I have to warn you though, if you get scared easily, skip this next item. This is a double-headed minifigure of Jason. Yeah, the guy from the horror movies. Just a regular Jason minifigure would be bad enough, but the fact that this guy has two heads is insane. Jason with 4 eyes? I mean, you're literally never escaping. You can run, but you definitely can't escape two-headed Jason. There might be something wrong with me though, because this next minifigure scares me even more than two-headed Jason. Check out this tube clown minifigure. I don't know about you guys, but clowns are by far the scariest thing ever. For that reason alone, I have no choice but to call this thing cursed. I don't know what it is, but these tube guy minifigures don't want to give me any peace. Here we have another one, but this one is called a weird frog. I don't know if it's because it's green or the way he's staring at me, but I know for sure that he's definitely cursed. Thank God the next one isn't that bad though. It's more weird and ugly. I mean, it does make sense though. I mean, his name is literally Ugly Tall Head. I don't know, and I don't want to know why someone decided to make this, but one thing I do want to know is why someone would buy this, and how would they even use it? Comment down below if you'd buy this thing. I'm genuinely super curious. Believe it or not though, this next item is an actual actual accessory that really exists. This is a so-called brick pick. Yeah, I'm serious. I don't know who made this or why they'd ever do it, but I mean, come on, this is just insane. Nobody wants to see that, bro. Get it out of here. On to the next item though, I have to warn you, since Christmas is right around the corner, I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to skip because I really don't want to ruin Christmas for you. I present to you a Santa minifigure. Well, kind of. This guy has clearly been through some coal in his time in the North Pole. I don't know what happened to him, but he's probably handing out fists this year instead of presents. Be careful. At this point, it's too obvious that whoever's making these minifigures loves making stuff look cursed. Here we have a minifigure in a body bag. I cannot believe how detailed it is, even though it's a simple minifigure. They even made her lips lose their color since she's, well, dead. This minifigure is a perfect fit for the manual for the deceased, so it's definitely cursed. Now, we were all scared of the Illuminati at one point in our lives, so the fact that an Illuminati minifigure exists is so insane. Money, pyramid, and eye, and that well-known star are all direct references to the Illuminati. Considering all the rumors around this organization, this item is definitely cursed, so let's just move on to the next one. Remember that butcher tube guy? Well, here we have another butcher, but this one is even worse because it's a human body. This time the hips are made of ham and the stomach is made of bacon. Whoever made this should definitely visit a mental hospital because this thing is cursed. Now, this next minifigure is already super creepy, but there's one detail that makes it way worse. This is a minifig of Chucky, a well-known horror movie character. The scariest part about Chucky is that he's the size of a tiny little doll. So the fact that this minifigure has short legs just makes it all the more cursed. Remember that super creepy blind SpongeBob from before? Well, I might have found a SpongeBob item that's even more cursed than that. Check this one out. Isn't this just downright ugly? Besides his very clearly ugly face, look at his legs. SpongeBob definitely doesn't have brown legs, so this leg piece just makes this whole thing worse. But if you think this minifigure is bad, just wait for the next one. Take a look at this Squid Game minifigure. Now, it doesn't actually look that bad, but that's not why this thing's cursed. The show this minifigure is based on is super brutal. It's literally just a show where a bunch of people, well, you know. The fact that someone made a minifigure based on such a cursed show is crazy, so there's no doubt that this minifigure is cursed. This next one is for all the hockey fans. Have you guys heard of Gritty, the mascot for the Philadelphia Flyers? Well, he's perfect as a mascot, but as a minifigure, he's super cursed. I don't know whose idea it was to combine this guy with a girl in a bikini, but it's super hard to look at. Imagine waking up next to that thing in the morning. That's a real-life nightmare. But this next minifigure might be even worse. This is a Chica minifigure. Yeah, the character from Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't even need to say why this thing is cursed. We all know what FNAF is. Last but certainly not least though, this is by far the most cursed Lego item of all time. This is a Diddy minifigure. If you haven't heard what Diddy did, you must live under a rock. But for everyone watching who knows, you know how cursed this minifigure is. I mean, this is just crazy. At the Lego Explorer Super Truck, this beast of a Lego set was released in 2002 and was only available in North America. You could purchase it at your average everyday toy store like Toys R Us or Walmart. The set only had 40 pieces, but it definitely was not small. The base of the truck was huge, and the wheels made it even bigger. It almost feels like it was made to look like one of those colossal dump trucks, which I personally loved as a kid. These massive wheels would later prove to be a serious problem for the Super Truck set though, and had a lot of people worried about the future of Lego. In 2006, Lego issued a full recall after 2 children were injured while playing with the truck. It seemed that the big wheels on the truck were detachable, and when unattached, exposed a metal axle, which was a serious puncture hazard for children. In light of this, Lego offered everyone who bought the Super Truck a $15 refund, even though the retail price was $20. Not nice, Lego. Their reason for doing this was that the set came with an additional 40 Lego Duplo blocks and were considered safe for children 18 months and up. Fortunately, Lego has only ever recalled 3 items, and the last one was over 10 years ago, way back in 2009. So it sounds like they've been doing a pretty good job of keeping their toys safe. The next banned item I'll be talking about is one that you might not expect. So, we've all heard of the famous Mr. Gold minifigure. I mean, he was even in one of our videos a little while ago. Well, what if I told you that Mr. Money over here was actually banned from being manufactured and distributed in the blink of an eye? In case you haven't heard, only 5,000 versions of Mr. Gold were ever made in the history of Lego. Considering how big of a company Lego is, 5,000 is barely anything, and there's actually a reason that they had to cap the number there. Since Mr. Gold was made to be rare from the beginning, LEGO fans took a very big interest in him. Since he was so rare and expensive, not everyone could either afford one or even find one to begin with. This led to people taking drastic measures to do whatever they could to get their hands on one, even if it wasn't made by LEGO themselves. All of a sudden, fake Mr. Gold minifigures started popping up everywhere, and people were buying them without even thinking twice. While some buyers may have known that they were purchasing a fake, most people didn't, and would then take the Mr. Gold they thought was real and try to flip him for an insane amount of profit. They would take the minifigure to stores that buy rare LEGO items, happy as can be, and walk out extremely disappointed. This happened so many times at a store called Bricknology that they decided to write an article about it. They were even nice enough to include pictures of what a real Mr. Gold minifigure looks like and how to tell it apart from a fake. This problem started way back in the day, but it still troubles people even now. Fake Mr. Gold is the least of LEGO's worries though, since there are hundreds of other fake LEGO items nowadays. Moving on from that, up next we have a LEGO set that was never actually released, but still somehow one of the most popular sets among die-hard LEGO fans. To explain this, I'll need to give a little context. Back in 2008, actors by the name of Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul accepted roles for a show they thought was a little weird. It ended up being the best decision they ever made, with the show today having millions of fans across the world. The show is called Breaking Bad, and it basically showcases what could happen when life gets a little messy. Kids, this show is made for adults, so don't watch it without your parents' permission. Because of how popular the show is, fans of Breaking Bad and LEGO alike decided to take it upon themselves to make the worlds collide. The guys over at Citizen Brick were the first to do it, and the set went viral. They called it the Super Lab playset, and it featured the three main characters, let's just call it cooking. This set was released in 2013 and retailed for $250. In 2023, 10 whole years later, this set is still being sold for an unbelievable $1,500. That is crazy. It wasn't even made by LEGO themselves. In fact, they even made a comment about the set at the height of its popularity, stating that they would not be manufacturing anything related to Breaking Bad at any point in time. This was a sad day for Jesse fans. Up next is a set that was one of the biggest mistakes LEGO has ever made. Construction-themed sets are something that LEGO has been making for a very long time now, but one in particular was very offensive, and how it even made it onto the shelves is beyond me. It was called the Construction Crew set, and featured a few construction workers, a bulldozer, and some other things you'd see on a typical construction site. There were a few text boxes on the cover that said things like "men at work" and "it's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it." But one of those text blocks was very out of line. Under a picture of one of the minifigures, there was a text bubble that said, "Hey babe," implying that the construction worker was catcalling. This was brought to everyone's attention by Josh Stearns, a man who lived in Massachusetts at the time. Stearns is a father of 2 sons and was appalled by the message written on the box. He found this LEGO set in the hands of his 4-year-old son and decided to post some pictures of it to Tumblr, captioning it with, "I was so disappointed to see the brand affiliated with a product that normalized street harassment and catcalling." In a matter of days, Stearns' Tumblr post started getting the attention of people everywhere. The set started getting negative reviews on Amazon, people were posting their own opinion about it, and dozens of news articles have been published. According to Charlotte Simonson, the text was made by a company called Creative Imagination. Just 2 years later, in 2012, Creative Imagination ceased all operations. Then, in 2013, Stearns made his post on Tumblr, and the situation unraveled. It seems like there was a little bit of time between when the set was actually made and when people started talking about the problem, but that doesn't excuse LEGO's actions. They've since released more sets under the name Construction Crew, so this is a little hard to find, but nonetheless, it's out there, and it definitely deserved to get banned. Okay, that last segment was a little serious, so let's talk about something more positive. Up next is the LEGO Star Wars Twilight set, released in 2008. Now, I wasn't very into talking about LEGOs with other people at this time. I just wanted to get my hands on as much LEGO Star Wars as I could and build it as fast as possible. But from what I can see, it seems like some other people weren't in the same boat. In an article by Isaiah McCall, written in October 2018, he wrote about the Twilight set and seemed to have had some information regarding how the set was received when it first launched. According to McCall, this set brought back terrible memories for him. He stated that he just wants to forget this era of Star Wars as a whole, and that the set takes him right back to it. And apparently, neither the show nor the set it was based on were received well at the time. Another LEGO fanatic by the name of Svelte wrote a review on a site called Eurobrick, and luckily for LEGO, he was a whole lot more supportive of the set. Svelte takes the reader through the process of building the set with him, which makes for a pretty enjoyable read. It gives you a first look at everything you could want to know about the LEGO Twilight ship. From the box to the instructions to every brick in the bag, this guy documented everything. Svelte stated in the beginning of his review that he knows how much everyone dislikes the set, but wants to find out for himself just how bad it really is. He ends the review off by saying that it's not as ugly as everyone's making it out to be, but it's not the prettiest LEGO Star Wars set released in recent years. Unfortunately, not everyone thought of the Twilight ship like he did, and after just 4 months of shelf life, it was retired for good. It basically got run off the shelves for being too ugly. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't think this set is ugly at all. It perfectly replicates the Twilight ship from the Clone Wars, and that's all I'm here for when it comes to LEGO Star Wars. I just want it to look like how it does on TV. Anyways, up next is another set. The adults had some problems with what LEGO was doing. In 2013, LEGO announced that they would be releasing a small line of Simpsons toys in 2014, and depending on customers' reactions, had the chance to be the next big collab, such as Star Wars or Harry Potter. Almost immediately though, fans started giving their opinions, and they were not happy. Unfortunately, the original forum that was on the LEGO website is gone, but some messages were recorded in an article from Wired. A user with the name SuperFox9738 said that if LEGO were to release the Simpsons products, that they would be boycotting everything LEGO. They continued by saying that LEGO is a kid-friendly company and that they should remain that way. Many people agreed with SuperFox and said things like it'd probably get no sales and that it's a bad idea. There were many other things being thrown around, but the main idea was this: there are no Simpsons fans who like Legos. Some months later though, the fire died out and people were starting to talk about how excited they were for the set to release. Then on February 3rd, 2014, the first Simpsons set hit the shelves. Surprisingly, it was there for a very long time, but was eventually retired in 2017. This wasn't a part of the plan though. The fire from back in 2014 had been on a low burn this whole time, and right around the set's retirement, people were in an outrage all over again. LEGO hasn't mentioned anything about The Simpsons since the retirement of that one set, so it's very possible that enough people were upset for long enough to get the show permanently banned from LEGO. Up next is a set you've probably never seen before, but let me warn you, just about every one of these are pretty scary looking. These are the LEGO Mixels, and they were introduced back in 2014 as part of a collab between LEGO and Cartoon Network. Out of everything Cartoon Network has ever made, why they decided to use the Mixels does not make any sense to me. Like, look at this one. What is that thing? I mean, they could have done anything. Teen Titans, regular show, Adventure Time, but instead we got this. If you couldn't already tell, the LEGO Mixels got discontinued after about 2 years because of negative feedback, and I'm sure you can see why. But of course, since practically nobody wanted these guys, hardly any sold, making some of them very rare and valuable today, with the most valuable being around $350 when it retailed for just $150. The ones you want to look out for are the Mixels series boxes, specifically 7 and 8. Each box came with 9 individually packaged Mixels, but since not a lot of people wanted these when they were available, they were able to double in value. Regardless, I'm pretty happy these guys got banned. The last thing I want to see in a LEGO store is whatever that thing is. Up next was actually one of the biggest things that's ever happened in LEGO. Over the years, the bricks have collaborated with a lot of different franchises, from movies to TV shows to even IKEA. A lot of companies have teamed up with them, but there was one company that LEGO had been making sets of for a very long time, and in 2014, everything fell apart. That company was Shell. Shell is an oil company that's been around for over 100 years. About 34 years after its initial launch, LEGO and Shell decided to team up, and the first collaboration set ever was released, the Mercedes Shell Tanker. It was just a one-piece set and was released in 1966 for just $2.40. This was the first of many LEGO pieces that would release with Shell branding, but because of corruption within the oil company, LEGO got burned. In 2014, it was revealed that Shell had knowingly been letting oil spill in Nigeria in 2008. The company had been warned about the spill when it happened and proceeded to do nothing about it for the next 6 years. This was an atrocity that should never have been committed, and because of LEGO's long history with Shell, they got pulled pulled right into the mix. People were beyond upset about the entire situation, and LEGO took it upon themselves to do what was right. After undergoing an immense amount of pressure from the Greenpeace Foundation, they cut ties with Shell. What the oil company had done was inhumane, and LEGO is all about having fun. So making sure that Shell was banned from collaborating with LEGO was the best thing they could have done. This next item was something you might remember if you were a kid during this time. LEGO Friends was introduced in 2012, and it did exactly what LEGO wanted it to do. Friends was introduced and marketed towards LEGO's female audience. Since most of what had been released at the time catered more towards boys, someone at LEGO thought it would be a good idea to try and include the girls too. Unfortunately for LEGO, they went about it all wrong, and a lot of people ended up disagreeing with them as opposed to supporting it. They were accused of encouraging gender stereotypes, and if you took just one look at what was being released, you'd see just how right the people were. The LEGO Friends set had a lot more pink than anything else that was being released at the time. There was also an entire set dedicated to a girl's puppy house, equipped with flowers and a full pet grooming set. On top of that, there was a new car in bright pink and purple colors, which was labeled as Stephanie's car. It was very clear that LEGO didn't think very hard before releasing these sets to the public. Or did they? Remember before when I said they got exactly what they wanted? Well, the year LEGO Friends hit the shelves, LEGO's profit went up by 35%, which in the business world is a massive spike. After receiving an intense amount of backlash from people everywhere, LEGO decided to roll back the LEGO Friends theme for a good amount of time before re-releasing what we have today. There are still a few remnants from the LEGO Friends sets of the past, but they're much better than they used to be. And finally, last but certainly not least on our list, we have the Osprey V22. Back in early 2020, LEGO announced a brand new Technic set, the Osprey V22. For those unfamiliar, the V22 Osprey is a real-life tilt-rotor military aircraft that combines the functionalities of a helicopter and a turboprop plane. The LEGO version was set to be part of the Technic line, known for its intricate and realistic builds. Fans were ecstatic. The set looked sleek, detailed, and was a fresh addition to the Technic lineup. But here's where things took a turn. The real-world Osprey V22 is used by militaries around the world and has been linked to several controversial operations. LEGO, a brand that prides itself on promoting peace and creativity, suddenly found itself in the midst of a debate. Should a children's toy company be producing a set based on a current military machine? Petitions started circulating. Fans were divided. Some argued that LEGO had previously released sets based on historical military vehicles. So what was the big deal? Others felt it was a step too far, especially for a modern machine still in use. LEGO decided it was time to make a move, and just days before its official release, LEGO announced that the Osprey V22 would not be hitting the shelves. In their statement, they mentioned that the set did not meet their brand values, which was a very bold move of them, especially considering the time and resources that go into developing a new set. But here's where things get interesting. Some sets had already been shipped to retailers, and a few lucky fans managed to get their hands on this now ultra rare set. Prices on online marketplaces skyrocketed. We're talking thousands of dollars for a set that was originally priced at around $100. The Osprey V22 became a legend in the LEGO community, a set that was produced, ready to launch, and then vanished. It's a reminder of the fine line toy companies walk, especially when basing products on real-world machines. Whether you agree with LEGO's decision or not, it's undeniable that the Osprey V22 saga added a fascinating chapter to LEGO's rich history. It's a testament to the brand's commitment to its values, even if it means making tough decisions. And for those lucky few who snagged a set, well, they own a piece of LEGO history that's as controversial as it is rare. Take a look at this LEGO Ula minifigure. She's got on a pretty questionable outfit, which has raised a few eyebrows from LEGO fans alike. For those who are unfamiliar with her, Ula is a character from the Star Wars series whose role was not so PG. She lived in Jabba's palace, and Jabba the Hutt had her doing some very adult-rated things. For this to be made into LEGO is something that was highly controversial and probably not okay to introduce to kids. If this didn't open your eyes a little bit, this next one is bound to. This is a fan-made recreation of an accident on a highway, made with a bunch of assets from the LEGO City theme. Now, in my opinion, this is nowhere near appropriate for kids. Highway accidents might look cool in movies, but for kids to be recreating them with their toys just doesn't sit right with me. It's even scary for adults to witness a car crash, but for one this massive to be recreated so easily could pose a bit of a problem. The last thing that needs to be on a child's mind is what would happen if their mom or dad crashed into an oil tanker on their next road trip. What's really weird about this video is that the creator shows how peaceful things were in this imaginary city for a good amount of time before letting the floodgates open. I don't know. know. Maybe I'm just looking too deep into this, but I feel like a kid could see the video like this and easily start overthinking and get themselves really wound up. Up next is a set that was one of the biggest mistakes LEGO has ever made. Construction themed sets are something that LEGO has been making for a very long time now, but one in particular was very offensive, and how it even made it onto the shelves is beyond me. It was called the Construction Crew set, and featured a few construction workers, a bulldozer, and some other things you'd see on a typical construction site. There were a few text boxes on the cover that said things like "men at work" and "it's a dirty job, but someone's gotta do it." But one of those text blocks was very out of line. Under a picture of one of the minifigures, there was a text bubble that said, "Hey babe," implying that the construction worker was catcalling. This was brought to everyone's attention by Josh Stearns, a man who lived in Massachusetts at the time. Stearns is the father of 2 sons and was appalled by the message written on the box. He found this LEGO set in the hands of his 4-year-old son and decided to post some pictures of it to Tumblr, captioning it with, "I was so disappointed to see the brand affiliated with a product that normalized street harassment and catcalling." In a matter of days, Stearns' Tumblr post started getting the attention of people everywhere. The set started getting negative reviews on Amazon, people were posting their own opinion about it, and dozens of news articles had been published. According to Charlotte Simonson, the text was made by a company called Creative Imagination and was discontinued in the summer of 2010. Just 2 years later, in 2012, Creative Imagination ceased all operations. Then, in 2013, Stearns made his post on Tumblr, and the situation unraveled. It seems like there was a little bit of time between when the set was actually made and when people started talking about the problem, but that doesn't excuse LEGO's actions. They've since released more sets under the name Construction Crew, so this is a little hard to find, but nonetheless, it's out there. Putting that aside though, up next is the Osprey V22. Back in early 2020, LEGO announced a brand new Technic set, the Osprey V22. For those unfamiliar, the V22 Osprey is a real-life tilt-rotor military aircraft that combines the functionalities of a helicopter and a turboprop plane. The LEGO version was set to be a part of the Technic line, known for its intricate and realistic builds. Fans were ecstatic. The set looked sleek, detailed, and was a fresh addition to the Technic lineup. But here's where things took a turn. The real-world Osprey V22 is used by militaries around the world and has been linked to several controversial operations. LEGO, being a brand that prides itself on promoting peace and creativity, suddenly found itself in the midst of a debate. Should a children's toy company be producing a set based on a current military machine? Petitions started circulating. Fans were divided. Some argued that LEGO had previously released sets based on historical military vehicles, so what was the big deal? Others felt it was a step too far, especially for a modern machine that's still in use. LEGO decided it was time to make a move, and just days before its official release, LEGO announced that the Osprey V22 would not be hitting the shelves. In their statement, they mentioned that the set did not meet their brand values. It was very bold of them, especially considering the time and resources that go into developing a new set. But here's where things get interesting. Some sets had already been shipped to retailers, and a few lucky fans managed to get their hands on this now ultra rare set. Prices on the online marketplaces skyrocketed. We're talking thousands of dollars for a set that was originally priced at around $100. The Osprey V22 became a legend in the LEGO community. A set that was produced, ready to launch, and then vanished. It's a reminder of the fine line toy companies walk, especially when basing products on real-world machines. Whether you agree with LEGO's decisions or not, it's undeniable that the Osprey V22 saga added a fascinating chapter to LEGO's rich history. It's a testament to the brand's commitment to its values, even if it means making tough decisions. And for those lucky few who snagged a set, well, they own a piece of LEGO history that's as controversial as it is rare. Speaking of history, this next piece is actually pretty famous, but the stuff that was going on makes me question if this is really meant for kids. This is the LEGO Colosseum from the days of the Roman Empire, and it has a pretty gruesome past. The Roman Empire is one of the most well-known empires in all of history. So well known, in fact, that some people just can't get it off their mind. The Romans were known for their flourishing economy, genius inventions, and captivating entertainment. The problem lies in the entertainment. Since there was no technology back then, the only way people could entertain themselves was with other people. And unfortunately, one of the most popular forms of entertainment was fighting. This is exactly what the Colosseum was made for. After its original construction in 80 AD, it was mostly used for gladiator fights and animal hunts, which were loved by a lot of Romans. For those who may not know, gladiators were brave warriors who did nothing but fight until the day they died, which was usually in battle. In the Colosseum, Colosseum, 2 gladiators would walk in and 1 would walk out. I think you can put together what happened to one of them. Many lives were lost inside that place, and although the rich history of the Romans is important to know, finding out like this might not be so good for kids. Up next, we have a set that at first glance you might assume was made for kids, but before you get all riled up, let me just explain a little bit. This is the LEGO Pac-Man arcade set. With over 2,600 pieces, this set has a lot going on for itself. It's got a movable joystick, a score point counter at the top, a mechanical maze, and even a coin slot with a cool light up brick. This set, despite being really cool, is definitely a risk to build. This set is in the 18+ section on the LEGO website, so it's clear LEGO knows how dangerous this could be for children. With all the moving parts, it can turn into a real problem if kids that are too young get their hands on it. Worst case scenario, someone's 3-year-old sees the light up LEGO bricks, the moving parts, and everything else going on, and ends up getting his hand stuck in the underside somehow. I don't know what it is with 3-year-olds, but they just feel the need to put their hands on literally everything. I didn't even tell you the worst part yet. This set has a big mechanical maze, which is cool because you can simulate a real Pac-Man game, making Pac-Man chase after Blinky and Clyde. It'd be super fun for people who aren't learning the building blocks of the world, but for someone like this, things could go sour very fast. Keeping the functionality theme going, this next piece is actually really cool until you think about the damage it could cause. This is the LEGO typewriter, which was actually taken from the LEGO ideas section and brought into the limelight. At first glance, the typewriter looks like it could be a lot of fun. Even though you can't actually type anything with it, it moves and sounds just like a real one. In case you don't know what a typewriter is, which I really hope isn't the case, here's a clip of someone using one in a college lecture. Now, imagine all that noise with Legos. Pretty cool, right? Well, the only way Legos can make that much noise is if the moving parts move with a lot of force. This can end up being a pretty big problem if it ends up in the wrong hands. I can see it now. Some evil older brother putting his younger brother's hand where the keys smack and letting it rip, because we all know how evil older brothers are. Point is, this could be a real hazard for kids. So if any of you end up buying one, be sure to keep it to yourself. Last but not least on our list, we have the Lamborghini Sean. Okay, to be fair, this is probably one of the coolest LEGO sets I've ever seen, so I can see why kids would want to get their hands on it. But regardless, this is probably something that kids shouldn't get their hands on. This Lamborghini is part of the Technic line, so there are a ton of very small pieces that are used to put it together. As we all know, small pieces and kids do not go together very well because they have a bad habit of eating just about anything. Even for kids who are a little older though, this car might prompt them to do some pretty dangerous things. God forbid a kid gets a bright idea like hopping in his parents' car and seeing how far he can get. Fact is, driving is for people who are a little bit older, so unless the kid is smart enough to not let it get into his head, it should probably be kept a safe distance away. What was your favorite item from this video? Be sure to let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.